Hey, welcome back to another web development video. Today I wanted to cover a walkthrough of an online coding bootcamp, specifically my coding bootcamp that I went through, and I wanted to kind of walk you through what that experience was, and hopefully if you're out there thinking about doing an online coding bootcamp, this will kind of help you get familiar with what that process is and how one actually is run. So the one I did it in 2019, and I'm making this video in 2020. So just an FYI, if you're watching this in the future, this is covering an online coding bootcamp from 2019. So the online coding bootcamp that I attended, it had a mix of live video lectures and recorded video lectures, text lessons, daily questions, and assignments. Video lectures, they're held twice a week in the evenings. And the course had completion deadlines where students had to have a certain percentage of the section coursework completed by a date. And everything is accessed in a web platform that saves your progress. And we also had to complete a message board question. I think this is for attendance. So every day you have to log in, answer some sort of research question, and then ideally you can make a little bit of progress in a section. So the text lessons were kind of complete at your own pace. So they're meant to complement live video lectures that you're attending. The questions are encouraged to be asked in the lectures as well as in a chat application where a TA or an instructor or another student would come in and answer them. And generally, if they were online, they'd be pretty good about answering them right away. Generally, there were a couple people a week that would ask questions, but if you asked off hours, it might take a day or two to get a response back. So because the live video lectures were only held twice a week, the instructor covered a lot of material really quickly. So most lectures were uploaded and recorded and uploaded for later viewing, but not all of them. But there were previous lectures that were also available for viewing. So if you missed one, you could probably watch it or watch a previous lecture. And sometimes it was nice because you could watch 2 or 3 or 4 different lectures on the same thing. And it was helpful to see maybe a different instructor cover things or see it covered in a different way. So that was pretty helpful. And I found viewing the past lectures extremely helpful just because of this. So what you learn in boot camp, or at least what I learned in a boot camp, first studied JavaScript algorithms, and this is before the official start date of the camp. So to get into the boot camp, you filled out an application and then you took a quiz. Then after they let you in, they give you some prep work to do. So they basically have you study a bunch of algorithms before the official start date, covering basic JavaScript syntax, looping through arrays and strings, and then predicting the output of these things. An example of this would be like you have an array and you're console logging a position in the array. What is that? Or you have an array and you are changing a value of a variable, and then you are testing to see that variable position inside of the array and perhaps changing it and then printing something out. So nothing extremely hard, but if you haven't done anything with JavaScript before, it's pretty tough. When the course actually did start, we first started with HTML and had JavaScript algorithms mixed in. So every day we do a little work on HTML. Every couple of days you'd have a lecture on that. And then also in these text lessons that you're going through in the course, there'd be, HTML this, HTML that, HTML something else, and then a JavaScript one where you solve these algorithms and turn them in. And after a month of this, we took an assessment where we needed to recreate a static website with only HTML. So after you pass that, I think you get a couple tries, but after you pass that, then move on to Python. So 1 month HTML and light JavaScript, maybe medium JavaScript algorithms, and then moving on to Python. So in Python, first off, we started with installing Python and running the shell files, and then moving into data types and functions, looping and algorithms and classes. So real big change, just completely switching language. And after a couple of weeks of that, we were introduced to Flask and then MySQL. and then after a couple more weeks of that, Django. So getting into a little bit of databases and frameworks pretty quickly. And at this point, Bootcamp's getting really hard right now because HTML, you're just studying one thing with the occasional foray into JavaScript. And now it is totally different language and frameworks, as well as a little bit of database stuff. And playing with MySQL for like 2 weeks in there, trying to combine all those things and connect all those things is really tough, especially at this point. So it's this point, it's like 3 weeks, 4 weeks of Python. So it's about a month into Python. The assignments at this portion of Bootcamp are consisting mostly of completing Python algorithms and building small Flask projects like a form or a basic page that would take in an input action and output some text. At the same time, when we're trying to connect this with MySQL, we have some MySQL stuff that we're doing. So syntax, how to query MySQL, and then MySQL Workbench. And then after, a week or so of week and a half of MySQL, we're connecting it into Flask. So really a lot of stuff going on really quickly. And then after that, we got a short 1 week break because we were doing this over the winter. So there was Christmas, New Year's with no assignments in there. But basically, it's a lot of stuff really quickly. And for me, I took that break to catch up on some assignments and stuff like that. So after we came back from break, we moved on to Django, and we're again building small projects, finishing with a full login and registration application where we're gonna, do full create, read, update, and destroy data in multiple pages. And the assignments that we needed to complete, it's like 70% of like 60 assignments. So 70% of those 60 assignments you had to have completed. In order to, you got to finish those, and then in order to qualify for the exam, you have to meet that 70% or higher threshold, and then at that point we would take the exam, and then determining on how many features you did and how well you did in the exam, you would get a different belt level basically on the exam. So after you pass that exam, or after I passed the exam, we got a group project with a 1 week deadline, meaning we just got a random team. And it was, I think we were able to pick whatever we wanted, but we were given some guidelines of like, maybe pick some of these, something like that. But I think we ended up picking one of the instructor like type ones, like, hey, build something with some of these features in there. And short timeline, at this point, we don't know Git. We've done just a tiny bit of it in the platform and lessons, but not a lot. But we had to really become comfortable with Git really quickly, and then be able to kind of divide up what everybody's doing. So one person's working on one feature, one person's on the other feature, and we're trying to merge branches and stuff like that. And remember, this is all online. This is an online boot camp. So I'm working with people in different time zones, which I'm really used to. But, you have to remember, you can't just call somebody up, in the evening, because if they're on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast, 9 p.m. for you is 12 p.m. for them. And it's not like their Saturday morning is totally different than your Saturday morning. By the time, they might be done coding by the time you're up. So yeah, after that, we turned that in, and then we moved on to mean stack. So MongoDB, Express.js, Angular 7 is what we focused on, and Node. So we had the option to pick the mean stack or C#, but I felt more comfortable with JavaScript. I'd already been playing around with it for a couple of years. So I chose mean stack. I figured, I don't want to try to learn another language on top of this. I just want to go back into JavaScript. So I picked mean course, and it's the same thing. We're still doing lectures and the lessons and stuff like that. And at this point, things start moving even faster because we're doing like ES6 syntax, callbacks, promises, object-oriented programming concepts, asynchronous programming concepts. And after a couple of weeks of that, we moved right into Node and Express. And, the same kind of thing as with Python, we're learning the basics of how to install everything, running the Node server, and what Express is, and how to create some basic routes. And after briefly touching on Socket.io, we're running really quickly through MongoDB and the Mongoose library, and just covering a little bit of syntax and auth routes and stuff like that. And at that point, from there, we moved into Angular. So it's been maybe a month or so. It's been about a month of that work. So a month into the mean stack, now we're full on to Angular, and we're working to build and deploy a complete single page app via Amazon AWS, Amazon Web Services. And same thing, we had to complete 70% of about 60 assignments to qualify for the exam, which was a randomized Angular project that essentially required connecting a MongoDB database, authentication routes, and updating data into that database via Express, and running all these things on a Node server. And the exam, it was like a 48-hour, like 2 days to complete it, and you could do retakes and stuff like that, but you can only do retakes for so long. I think it was 3 weeks or a month that we got to do. So after that, after passing that, we move into like a career services portion where more online course stuff and a few meetings with career advisor. We'll have some one-on-one meetings and stuff like that where basically you talk about how to build your portfolio now and how to apply for job interviews, or how to apply for jobs, how to interview, and how to do a little salary negotiation. So everything was really fast, really quickly, moved really well. And this is all over the course of 6 months from start to finish. And I also spent a month of prep work, so that's 7 months. And then after that, I spent a full month making my portfolio and building my resume. And this is about 8 months worth of work. For me, it was 8 months worth of work with all those things. And it was a pace of about 30 hours a week. So I did this. This was a part-time boot camp, not a full-on one. It was a part-time one. So, basically two languages or 2 stacks, not 3 like a lot of places do, and part-time online, meaning that it wasn't every day, all day. All my stuff's in the evenings and whatnot, and in the weekend. So that's why I did all my coursework. So I'm working for this entire time. And at the end of this course, after 30 hours a week for 30 hours a week of this coursework for 7 months before I built my portfolio, I was basically able to build and deploy a real simple mean stack Angular application and real simple Django Python project. And that's pretty much it. So in summary, a lot of work, prep work really helps you. And after that, after applying for some jobs, I did end up getting a job. Took me a few months to do that, to apply to places and get a job. And during that time, I'm still, working as much as I can during the week, writing code and getting better and stuff like that. But I hope this video is helpful, and the walkthrough from this online bootcamp, it's going to be different for every single one. And I just want you to remember that this was 1, online bootcamp, 2, part-time, 3, it took 7 months, including the prep work, and that was 30 hours a week. And to be honest, it was probably more like 40 to 45, maybe even 50 hours a week. I just couldn't do it because I was working full-time. But I still was able to pass, even though it was difficult, I still was able to pass the course and eventually get a job. Just putting in like 30 to 35, maybe sometimes 40 hours a week, depending on the week. So, and to remember, I am working this entire time. But I hope this video has been helpful. And if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I'll try to respond to them. Otherwise, definitely subscribe, and I'll see you next time.